Hello and welcome to the listeners of the This Month in Fintech podcast. I'm so happy that you could all join us today. My name is Sasha Pilch, and I'm delighted to interview our guest today, Diya Jolly, Chief Technology Officer and Chief Product Officer of Xero. So, Diya, it's great to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
Thank you for having me, Sasha. It's great to be here.
And where in the world are you calling from today?
I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I usually am on a flight. I live on a flight, but today I happen to be here.
When I was doing the preparation with your comms team, they were explaining that because Xero is a New Zealand headquartered APAC company, you were often on a flight to Australia. I'm actually Australian, so I know that flight too well and it's really long. So,
Yes.
do you have any hot tips for jet lag?
Hot tips for jet lag. I am actually not that great at jet lag, except I do enjoy the flight because it is a
Uh,
flight at night. You can go to sleep, and then you can wake up and have a productive day.
yeah, true. There's no disruptions, like you're just in there for 17 hours. So,
Yeah.
sounds
My
good.
hot tip for jet lag is just get through it.
Yeah, just survive. Me too. Great. So, for the listeners that don't know, Xero is a multi-billion-dollar public company, and it's a leader in accounting and fintech software for small businesses globally. I was actually the 13th employee of Ramp back in 2020, and back then we only had two accounting integrations. We had Xero and we had QuickBooks. Later we added Sage and NetSuite as our customers started to grow and had those needs, and we went up market with customers. But I'd love to talk about how Xero fits into the space now in 2026. So for those listeners that are thinking about deciding between Xero and QuickBooks, what are the differences? What's the strength?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Because from the outside, it all sounds like it's the same thing. So Xero really fundamentally today, in today's world, if you think about Xero, most software platforms are being changed dramatically because of AI and automation, right? And we're no different. We believe we can deliver a lot more value to our customers that are small businesses um, via using new technologies out there in the market. Now, a lot of companies are automating and providing individual agents to customers, and they then have to stitch all of this stuff together. We, on the other hand, believe that you as a customer don't have the time to do this, right? Like you need someone. The reason you come by software is so that someone can actually stitch everything together for you. So we have this concept. We have this concept of a financial super agent, which essentially orchestrates all your other agents for you. And we call it Jax. The reason we call it Jax is because we think of it as your personal financial assistant. And with that personal financial assistant, you can talk to it just like you talk to any other employee in your company. And it does all the tasks that you need it to do. And you don't have to go talk to a bookkeeping agent or a payroll agent or a payments agent or a bill pay agent. So we simplify it in that way. So that's one thing. I think the second place we're very different from most other SaaS companies is we believe that most domains like that small businesses and CFOs and accountants and bookkeepers work in require some element of human judgment. Some of it is A lot of it is automatable, but at the end of the day, human beings are human beings because of their judgment. So the way we build our products or all our AI and automation product is to make it easy for a human being, make it transparent to a human being what has happened with the automation, why it has happened, and also make it easy for the human judgment to be applied as and where needed. So we'll either solicit the human judgment if there's human judgment needed, or we'll also take in the human judgment if the human being wants to override something. And it's built with that mindset, which is it's not just automated workflows, it's automated workflows that makes human beings better.
Mm. That's an excellent example of how you are utilizing AI to improve the product. And I can see that other players in the market are also trying to, make the use of AI as everyone is in 2026. What about your thoughts on newer yet smaller entrants to the market? Rillet, for example, founded by Nicholas Kopp, who a lot of our audience knows because he was the CEO of N26 when that launched in the US. Campfire is another one that comes to mind. Anything you'd have to say about how you differentiate there?
Yeah, so look, I think um, we're always watching others in the space, and we're always learning from other people. What we have that is differentiated is a couple of things. We have 4.5 million subscribers using the platform. And in the world of AI, data is king. So the more data you have and the more data you can build agents on for your customers, uh, the the more complex agents you can build and the more accurate they will be. The other thing is we also have domain knowledge, deep, deep years of domain knowledge, right? And that also helps you shape agents much more deeply. Because think about this, the reason you don't go to a horizontal LLM like a chat GPT to do your accounting and bookkeeping is because the rules are complex. Even for LLMs, the rules are complex and there is judgment required in the rules. We have 4.5 million customers that have been using us forever, have been telling us what judgment they're taking. So we have all of that data to build on. And then the other thing I would say is it's actually funny. I tried to start my own bookkeeping slash payments type company after I left Okta. And I quickly realized that, and AI just LLMs had just come out. And I'm like, we should be able to use this to turn everything around. And I quickly realized data is a huge advantage in the space. So I'd say that's really how we think about it. How do we learn from people who are using it, our customers, and then how do we use AI to make that better?
Exactly, yeah, and especially with LLMs learning with all of the data and experience that they've had as an input, so it makes total sense as to why Xero is a leader. And you're definitely a leader in regions like APAC. You're founded in New Zealand. Can you talk to me a little bit about what's next for the regions that you're going to tackle and be the dominant player in?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I think what Xero has been known for is its customer centricity and its really simple and easy to use interface in all the countries that we're in. Um, it's easy to use, yes, yet it's a end-to-end fulfilled, it's an end-to-end complete financial platform with bookkeeping, tax, and compliance, payments and payroll. um, when you think about what we're looking at in the future, it's a few things. Look, our customers' needs do keep deepening and changing. So we've said we are going to focus on three key markets, which is Australia, and New Zealand, US, and UK, right? And really, it's not that we can stop building. Customers need more things. Regulations change. New forms of paying people come out. So payroll, more innovation happens. So how do we keep deepening for our customer need set and expanding the types of customers we can serve to some extent, right? We are very good in certain segments and verticals. There are other segments and verticals we can build for. But I think that is one aspect of it. I think the other aspect of it just is, can you just rethink software right now with all that's happening, right? And this is where I talked about a bunch of this is where I talked about okay. This is what I was referring to when I talked about AI changing how software works. So rethinking what software means and how much more value it can deliver to our small businesses. For example, we just launched auto bank reconciliation, and that saves customers 22 hours per month. That's 4 to 5 hours per week. That's 5 hours per week. That's crazy, right? Like,
Wow,
I mean,
that's huge.
think about these small businesses or accountants or bookkeepers who are so time strapped, right? So now you can bring technology to bear that actually gives them time back, whether they want to use it for growing their business, whether they want to use it for other things. It gives them like their evenings, their weekends back. So that I think that is what the next generation of innovation would be around.
Excellent. So important for these small businesses to have time back in their day. And with you talking about these priorities for Xero, it's probably a good segue to talk about the dual role that you have as both chief product officer and chief technology officer. How did this come about, and what's your secret to time management?
Um, how did this come about? I actually think the world is moving more and more to a combined role, to be honest. And the reason is because uh, if you have one person that can arbitrate, if you have one person that understands both, it reduces a lot of the friction. And then if you can have one person that arbitrates across what to build and how to build it, it just makes decisions move faster in the org. It makes spinning happen less, like when different teams spin, and it just, I think, leads to a better outcome. The trick, though, is you need to have a product leader who's quite technical, and you need to have it, or you need to have a technical leader who's very customer and product focused. So, but I think as time goes on, as AI is making it easier to write applications, it's not making it easier to write every kind of software, but it is making it easier to write applications. I think you will see more and more of the combined role. Um, in, in terms of time management, honestly, I think there are a few different frameworks or a few different things. One is like I'm blessed that I have an absolutely amazing team, right? And so they're the ones that really do a lot of the work. I think the second thing is um, I keep my focus on the top three or four things. I decide at the start of every week what are the three things that I'm going to absolutely do this week that are most important to move the business. And then I have it at a month level, I have it at a weekly level. And so I make sure I have time blocked out on my calendar for that. And then the other thing is not spending too much time making a decision that is reversible. Sometimes it is better if a decision is reversible, if it's a two-way decision, then moving faster is better than continuing to debate it and spend time. If it's a one-way door, then you need to spend the time and the effort. But even in a one-way door, can you get your team to construct experiments that give you an early signal so you don't end up spending too much time spending on it?
I totally agree. And the fact that you have this dual role of CTO and CPO does make so much sense, especially as the organization grows. There's no these two silos of two leaders working on their own top three things, which might be different things. So it makes total sense that you're the leader across both of those orgs. So like, I love to hear it. Um, and it's probably a good segue to talk about how you got to this point. So your earlier career. So you started at McKinsey on the grad program, and you then went to Microsoft where you led bringing live TV to Xbox. In 2008, you joined a pre-revenue startup called Freewill, which you successfully scaled and sold to Comcast. We've got a lot of listeners that are either working for a very early stage company or working for a large corporate and thinking about making the jump to a startup. So we'd love your insights on that experience.
Sure. So I was relatively early in my career. I was part of a team that scaled it. I think the founders of that company get a lot of credit. They were for scaling and selling it. Um, I think the way I would think about decisions in your career, very early in my career, I made a choice to always chase learning and growth. Not brand names, not what's hot, but learning and growth. I actually had a role outside once I graduated from business school from one of the hottest companies in the Bay Area. I'll leave them nameless. And I decided not to take it because the role that they were giving me just did not have I just didn't think I would learn.
Mhm.
Um, and instead went to Microsoft. So I think that is one thing. I think in terms of, I believe you should jump across companies of different sizes and domains. If you look at my background, most people are either B2B people or B2C people, or they are fintech people, or they are consumer, like consumer platform people, I've always jumped around because I believe that different domains have learning for across each other. So from a if you're thinking about your career and your early stage, what I would say is seek out experiences where you can learn both from the content of the role as well as the people around you, and constantly put yourselves in roles that make you uncomfortable, where you think you're going to fail.
I think that's excellent advice. It's scary advice, but I'm a big believer in doing the thing that scares you most, because that's always going to be the right decision if it's a calculated risk.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
in 2019, you made a move to Okta.
Mhm.
So, and it was also the rise to your first C-suite position. As chief product officer of Okta, during your tenure of Okta, the company grew from 400 million to 1.8 billion over 4 consecutive years of achieving Rule of 40 by launching innovative industry-leading new products like FastPass, Next-Gen Identity. What a success story. So I first used Okta myself in 2019 when Quovo had just been acquired by Plaid, and the New York City employees were flown over to San Francisco for induction, and we were exposed to how the San Francisco office did everything. And I remember being blown away about how seamless the product was. So can you share a little bit about anything that was pivotal in enabling your team to build such a futuristic experience?
That's a great question. I think first of all, the it's actually an interesting story. When I started at Okta, there was a lot of talk about passwordless, which is essentially FastPass. But the industry was like, will it happen? Will it not happen? Will it happen? Will it not happen? Right? And Okta itself was like, I have this whole laundry list of things that customers want. Like my team was like, I have this whole laundry list of things that customers want from us. We know this is a sure bet. This is definitely going to happen. So should we spend time on that? That's so hard to do. It'll take away from all of these. So I think really the lesson here is you're not always building a product is part science but part art, right? And
Mm-hmm.
part data and part and logic and part gut. um, so really what the team and I went with there was gut, right? Which is if you cannot enter passwords, it reduces the friction to sign in. It makes signing in a great experience. It makes um, actually makes security go up. So we made a bet that the world will definitely go in that direction, right? In terms of making it so you have to have some conviction to make bets, because otherwise you will only increase your product incrementally. And now, will all bets win? Not always. And that's where you need to be careful about spending enough resources on things that will win, and spending enough on new innovative bets. In terms of building the future a frictionless experience, I think some of the lessons there are to get a team to understand the customer pain points. They must live the day to day of a customer. uh, you the team must unite on a common mission. So how do you do that? You build a vision together and a mission together, and then you talk about it and you talk about it and you talk about it till it becomes second nature. And then really a lot of teams get stuck in, I am going to wait till I have the perfect product. It took 3 years for, I'd say, to get FastPass to perfection, right? And
Mm-hmm.
probably after and after I left. So keep iterating, launch the first thing. You can have a vision that you want to get to, but then don't get blocked by trying to launch your holistic vision. Break it up into simple steps that you can launch for customers, learn from them and iterate, because I guarantee you, no matter what your vision was, your customers are going to tell you what it really needs to be.
And such great advice. Like when I worked for big banks, I used to see millions, billions of dollars be put into products that were built in a silo, and then they'd launch it to the market and then no one wanted it. Or so I'm a big believer in this, like fail fast, fail often, test and learn. That's a really like key point that you mentioned, which was not having to enter a password is less friction. But then
Yeah.
there's that, paradigm of, do we increase friction to decrease fraud? So was that one of the things that you proved with the fast iteration, that actually not having to enter a password is safer, even though it's less friction?
Exactly. That's a very, very good question. Um, are you sure you weren't in the security industry at some point? Um, so yes, I think the hypothesis was biometrics or your fingerprint or your face ID is inherently harder to phish, right? It's inherently harder to copy, but it needed to be proven. And so the hypothesis was it's frictionless and it has higher security. And so as you rolled it out, there are a lot of companies that would be like, well, we're not sure, we still want a password. A passphrase is more secure. Um, but then they would do rollouts and tests because it was designed in a way where you did not have to roll it out to everybody. You could do a test on a small cohort of people.
And then the data spoke for itself, and your
Exactly.
hypothesis was proven.
Exactly.
I've just realized I've skipped over a big chunk of your career, which I'm actually very excited to double click on. So, you spent 8 years at Google's Mountain View office. What was that like in that heyday of Google? Like, do you have any stories from Google that you're okay to share?
Heyday of Google. Yeah, I mean, Google was an amazing experience. I generally say I grew up at Google and learned most of what I learned in product leadership. In the innovative part of product leadership at Google, I learned a lot on business discipline after, as well. I think really the things that I learned was like, how do you actually think about the customer, put yourself at the center of the customer? How do you use both data, because Google has a ton of data, but also data doesn't always tell you what somebody wants, because who would have imagined, like, if you told me I'm going to chat into a chat box 6 years ago, I'd be like, what are you talking about? So often you don't, like, it's the coming together of technology, intuition, and data that really tells you what customers can do. And getting the reps to do this with people that are like world class at this at scale, and innovating with them at scale. That is what Google was. It was a startup. It was like a startup, even though it was gigantic. Um, Stories. I think I don't have stories, but I'd say most of my closest professional friends to date. I've now been out of Xero or out of Google for 7 years. I was there for 8 years. They're still people from Google. They're still
It's
my
really
closest friends. So it was a very tight knit community that really helped. Uh, that really just that really just thrived on innovation and launching things that solve people's pain points.
it's so special when that happens, like when you're really in flow state and enjoying your job so much that those people become your best friends. Like, I still have some of my best friends from Quovo and Plaid. They're coming to my 40th this year, so um, I feel really grateful that I got that experience, and it sounds like you had a great experience at Google too, which is lovely. We are kind of coming up on our time together, so I wanted to ask you a bit of a fun question. What are your favorite books? So, personal, and it can be fiction or non-fiction, and a professional one.
That's a good question. So on personal, I would say uh, it still is. I was trying to see if I've used this a few times, but I was trying to see if anything else, if anything else would take its place. But there's a book called The Accidental Superpower that talks about how the U.S.
Oh.
came to be the country it was, with the amount of innovation, with the amount of wealth creation, to be honest.
Mhm.
And I don't think I had ever thought about how geography uh, impacts the destiny of a nation. And that
Mhm.
is what it talks about, primarily, which is how geography and then the people that gravitated towards that geography is really what led the US to be the US. And so that was a very intellectually interesting book that has nothing to do with the world I live in. On the professional side, um, there are two books. I'll pick one because I can't remember the name of the other. But it is really the power of mathematical thinking, right?
Mm.
Which is when things are ambiguous, when you don't know what decision to make, how can you put measurement um, to help guide you? So, for example, right now we're trying to figure out if we want to um, make a decision about building a certain product. And there are about as many opinions on whether we should build it or not build it as there are team members, to be honest. And so, in a situation like that, how do you actually go, okay, here's the metrics we want to meet, and then what is the smallest possible experiments that lead to understanding if those metrics are correct or not? That's really kind of along the lines of what that book explains.
I think that's one of the reasons why I'm living here in the US rather than all the way over in Australia. But yeah, definitely interested to learn more about that. So thanks, Dia, for sharing those. Okay, so we're nearly at the end. Is there anything that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
I would say the following for anyone that is thinking about being in the fintech industry, for anyone that is thinking about building products or using products in this in over the next 10 years. I think where the world is going to go to, or I believe where the world is going to go to, I feel pretty confident about this, is that software will start doing more and more for you and will start becoming more and more um, of your junior assistant. This is not revolutionary, but um, what will happen is that users will want an interconnected experience. They will not want um, they will not want a ton of software all over the place. They will not want a ton of agents all over the place. So what you will see is, especially in fintech, you will see the financial stacks begin to collapse and financial horizontals beginning to come up. And you're already seeing this. I mean, this is one of the reasons we acquired Melio, is because we felt you can't be a financial platform of the future without actually having bill pay and having the best bill pay capabilities. The other thing I think you'll see is that you not only is software helping you do stuff, it is also it is making it easier for you to get more intelligent. And what I mean by that is it'll proactively start surfacing things like, hey, your cash flow is low, you should do X, or um, uh, have you thought about this business opportunity, etc. And then the final one, and I'd say this is my belief, is um, you're not just going to experience financial products within a financial UI anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
what LLMs have done is it's made us be able to converse to software kind of like we converse to human beings. So why can't I converse with Xero over a text? Why can't I converse with
Mm.
Xero over WhatsApp? Why can't I be in my Gmail and send Xero an email asking it what to do? So I think you're going to see more and more federated um, uh, software experiences from software products that may not be in their existing UI.
Mm. I think that's great because there are so many times in our, life right now where we're like, oh, I'll have to get back to you when I'm at my keyboard.
Yeah,
But why? Like, that's just slowing things down when it
exactly.
could be like a very ubiquitous experience. So I'm excited for that. That sounds great. Okay, well, we're at time now, so I'm thrilled to have had you on the podcast, Dia. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful getting to know you. You've got a very inspiring story. And to our listeners, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Please give us a review or subscribe. We'd be so grateful for that. Okay,
Thank
thanks
you so much.
everyone. See you next month.